6 members of a criminal group were convicted for forcing trafficked migrants to work in illegal cannabis farms across the UK. The group was found guilty of conspiracy to facilitate the travel of individuals for exploitation and conspiracy to produce cannabis. This case followed an extensive investigation led by the National Crime Agency, NCA. The ringleader, Mai van Nguyen, previously convicted for people smuggling, orchestrated the operation of numerous cannabis farms, primarily across the Midlands, London, and Northern England. He worked with other Vietnamese nationals to exploit migrants for labour. The group used false identities and fraudulent documentation to lease properties, turning them into cannabis farms. This deceit caused significant property damage and financial losses for landlords. Migrants were trafficked into the UK under false pretenses, forced into labour to repay debts. These victims lived in deplorable conditions, often facing physical abuse. The operation also involved 2 Birmingham-based taxi drivers who transported both workers and cannabis-related materials. Amjad Nawaz, a middleman, coordinated between Nguyen and others involved in the operation. His arrest revealed cannabis and cash, further implicating him in the criminal enterprise. The investigation uncovered multiple cannabis farms across the UK, showcasing the scale of the operation. The convictions highlight the effectiveness of law enforcement efforts against human trafficking and modern slavery. The criminal group employed a sophisticated tactic of leasing properties, using false identities and aliases to set up cannabis farms across the UK. This involved presenting fraudulent documents to landlords and letting agencies, allowing the group to establish operations without raising suspicion. The use of fake identities ensured the group could remain undetected, and property owners were often unaware that they were unknowingly renting to criminals. This deceitful practice led to significant property damage. The cannabis farms required extensive modifications, including alterations to electrical systems and structural changes to support the illegal operation. As a result, many unsuspecting landlords faced severe financial losses when the authorities discovered the extent of the damage after the farms were uncovered. Such actions also contributed to the broader issue of organised crime, as these tactics enabled the group to operate efficiently and profitably. The fraudulent documents used to lease the properties were often sophisticated, making it difficult for landlords or authorities to identify the true nature of the operations. This further underscores the dangers posed by these criminal networks, which not only exploit vulnerable people, but also take advantage of the trust placed in legitimate businesses and property management systems. The criminal group trafficked migrants into the UK under false pretenses, exploiting their desperate situations to force them into labour on cannabis farms. These victims were often promised better lives, only to find themselves trapped in debt bondage, working in deplorable conditions to repay fabricated debts. The traffickers used coercive tactics, including threats of violence, to maintain control over the migrants, ensuring they had no means of escape. Once inside the UK, the exploited migrants were subjected to grueling work hours and poor living conditions, often crammed into overcrowded properties with minimal access to basic necessities. Many were subjected to physical abuse or constant threats, making it nearly impossible for them to seek help. The group's actions reflect the broader issues of modern slavery within the UK's illegal cannabis industry, where the demand for cheap labour often leads to the exploitation of vulnerable individuals from abroad. The trafficked migrants were not just working in these farms, they were trapped in a cycle of fear and exploitation, with little chance of ever paying off the inflated debts they were told they owed. This form of labour exploitation highlights the disturbing intersection of human trafficking, modern slavery, and the illegal drug trade, where the lives of people are traded for profit, leaving them with little hope of escaping their situation. 2 Birmingham-based taxi drivers played a crucial role in facilitating the criminal operation, transporting trafficked migrants between various cannabis farm locations. They were not just simple drivers, their involvement was integral to maintaining the flow of labourers and supplies across different sites. The drivers were paid to move individuals and materials, ensuring the smooth running of the illicit farms. These taxi drivers weren't just assisting with transportation, they were part of a wider network that kept the criminal enterprise functioning. Their participation highlights how organized crime can involve a wide range of individuals, often in roles that seem disconnected from the core illegal activity. For these drivers, it was a job, but for the trafficked migrants, it was a sign of their ongoing exploitation. The taxi driver's role in the operation was not a one-off occurrence. They regularly transported migrants, contributing to the scale and reach of the criminal network. Their involvement underscores how ordinary people can become enmeshed in serious criminal activity, whether knowingly or not. It also points to the broader issue of organized crime in everyday settings, where individuals can unwittingly become key facilitators in illegal enterprises. Amjad Nawaz played a key role as the middleman in this criminal operation, acting as a liaison between Mai Van Nguyen, the ringleader, and other associates involved in the trafficking and exploitation of migrants. Nawaz's job was to coordinate the logistics of the operation, ensuring that workers were sourced, properties were arranged, and everything ran smoothly. His position in the criminal hierarchy allowed him to manage communications and resources, making him an essential part of the network. During his arrest, Nawaz was found in possession of cannabis and cash, further solidifying his active participation in the illicit enterprise. His direct involvement in the trafficking operation revealed his central role in managing the day-to-day activities of the group. Evidence gathered during the investigation, including intercepted communications, showed Nawaz regularly communicated with Nguyen and other members, coordinating the movement of workers and materials. Nawaz's position also allowed him to facilitate the exploitation of vulnerable migrants, making him a vital link in the chain of the group's operations. His arrest and the discovery of his involvement underscore the extensive and organized nature of the criminal enterprise, and his conviction highlights the importance of targeting all levels of such operations in order to dismantle them. A pivotal moment in the case came from the testimony of a Vietnamese national, referred to as Witness Zed, whose harrowing account shed light on the cruel exploitation of trafficked migrants. Witness Z had been trafficked into the UK under false pretenses, with the promise of work to help repay a debt. However, once in the country, he found himself trapped in a nightmare. Forced into labor on the cannabis farms, he was subjected to brutal living conditions, working long hours with little rest and enduring threats of violence if he attempted to escape. Witness Z's story was particularly impactful because it highlighted the coercive tactics used by traffickers, who kept their victims in bondage through debt. Migrants like Witness Z were often manipulated into believing they had no way out, with their debt increasing exponentially as they worked in the cannabis farms. The traffickers used fear and intimidation to control them, making it nearly impossible for these individuals to seek help or escape their situation. His testimony not only offered critical insight into the operations of the trafficking ring, but also underscored the broader issue of modern slavery within the UK's illegal cannabis industry. The emotional and physical toll on victims like Witness Z highlighted the dire need for stronger efforts to combat human trafficking and protect the most vulnerable individuals from exploitation. Discovery of cannabis farms. The discovery of multiple cannabis farms linked to the trafficking operation marked a significant breakthrough in the investigation. Authorities uncovered farms in several key locations, including Tipton, Coventry, Derby, and East Ham. These farms were not just small-scale operations, they were large, sophisticated setups that required substantial resources to run. The scale of these operations suggested a well-organized and profitable illegal enterprise, with far-reaching implications for both the trafficked workers and the communities around them. The cannabis farms were often hidden in plain sight, with the group using leased properties as covers. These properties were altered to accommodate the illegal cultivation of cannabis, leading to extensive property damage. The changes made to these properties, such as installing specialized lighting, ventilation systems, and hydroponics, caused significant structural harm and financial losses for the unsuspecting landlords. This discovery painted a clear picture of the criminal network's operations, revealing how the group exploited vulnerable migrants for labor while engaging in large-scale drug production. The widespread nature of the farms demonstrated the group's ability to operate across multiple regions, further highlighting the scale and complexity of their criminal activities. The authorities' successful uncovering of these farms was critical in dismantling the operation and securing convictions for the individuals involved. Arrests and legal proceedings. The arrests of the individuals involved in this extensive trafficking and drug production operation took place between June 2021 and August 2022. The investigation, led by the National Crime Agency, NCA, in collaboration with regional police forces, culminated in a series of coordinated operations that targeted the key members of the criminal group. During the legal proceedings, the 6 individuals were charged with serious offences, including human trafficking, modern slavery, and conspiracy to produce cannabis. The charges reflected the severity of their involvement in a multi-layered crime network that exploited vulnerable migrants for forced labour while simultaneously running illegal cannabis farms. These arrests were a major milestone in the fight against modern slavery and organised crime in the UK. The convictions served as a testament to the effectiveness of collaborative law enforcement efforts, highlighting the importance of inter-agency cooperation in tackling complex criminal enterprises. The legal proceedings also sent a clear message about the UK's commitment to holding individuals accountable for their role in modern-day slavery and the illegal drug trade, ensuring that the perpetrators faced significant consequences for their actions. The authorities involved in the investigation were outspoken about the severity of the criminal activities and the broader implications of the case. NCA branch commander Kevin Broadhead made it clear that the criminal group displayed a complete disregard for human life, motivated solely by financial gain. He emphasised that the traffickers had exploited vulnerable individuals for their own profit, treating them as disposable commodities. The Crown Prosecution Service also voiced its concern with a statement that highlighted the exploitation of these victims, who were driven by desperation and poverty. The criminals responsible were using tactics such as debt bondage and threats to control their victims, showing a complete lack of empathy for their suffering. These statements underscored the UK authorities' commitment to combating human trafficking and modern slavery. The case not only brought attention to the scale of illegal operations in the country, but also reinforced the dedication to dismantling such networks and holding those responsible accountable for their crimes. The case served as a reminder of the need for continued vigilance and collaborative law enforcement efforts in tackling exploitation and organised crime. NCA's commitment to combating modern slavery and trafficking. The case was a significant victory for law enforcement, not only because of the convictions, but also because it highlighted the ongoing commitment of the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, and other authorities in tackling modern slavery. The exploitation of vulnerable individuals, trafficked into the country under false pretenses and forced into hazardous labour, is a harsh reminder of the scale of human trafficking within the illegal cannabis industry. However, this case is just one of many that reveal the extent of modern slavery in the UK. The NCA worked alongside regional police forces to investigate and dismantle the criminal network, leading to multiple arrests between June 2021 and August 2022. These coordinated efforts were crucial in identifying the key players and ensuring they were brought to justice. The authorities' thorough investigation exposed how deeply embedded the criminal group was in exploiting both human and financial resources for their operations. It also shed light on the broader issue of human trafficking and forced labour, which extend beyond cannabis farms to sectors such as agriculture, construction, and domestic servitude. Other notable cases in recent years have further demonstrated the prevalence of modern slavery in the UK. In 2019, police uncovered the largest modern slavery ring in UK history, where over 400 victims, mainly from Poland, were exploited for labour under horrific conditions. The gang responsible forced individuals to work long hours for minimal pay while living in squalid accommodations. Similarly, a 2021 case saw the dismantling of a trafficking network that exploited dozens of Vietnamese nationals, forcing them to cultivate cannabis in rented properties across England and Wales. These cases, along with the recent convictions, underline the importance of continued efforts to combat human trafficking and ensure the protection of vulnerable individuals. This case also serves as a call to action for both law enforcement and the general public to remain vigilant against human trafficking. Authorities have reiterated their commitment to tackling this issue head-on, and these convictions are a testament to their dedication. The importance of community awareness cannot be overstated. Many of these operations function in plain sight, with trafficked victims living and working under extreme duress behind closed doors. Recognizing signs such as unusual activity at properties, covered windows, and strong cannabis odors can help alert authorities to potential trafficking situations. The public's role in reporting suspicious behavior is vital to dismantling these criminal networks. Despite this successful prosecution, law enforcement officials acknowledge that the battle against modern slavery is far from over. The underground networks behind human trafficking and forced labor continue to evolve, adapting their tactics to avoid detection. Criminal organizations exploit legal loopholes, false identities, and fraudulent leasing agreements to facilitate their operations, making it essential for both law enforcement and policymakers to remain proactive in addressing these challenges. The UK government has taken steps to strengthen anti-trafficking efforts, including the introduction of the Modern Slavery Act 2015. This legislation was a landmark achievement, providing authorities with greater tools to prosecute traffickers and protect victims. However, cases like this one demonstrate that more must be done to disrupt the criminal enterprises profiting from human suffering. The NCA remains resolute in its mission to prevent further exploitation and bring those responsible to justice. This case is a crucial step forward, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing fight against modern slavery and human trafficking in the UK.